Hello you lot, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keith, and today I'm going to do something quite unusual. I'm going to relaunch a 5-year-old video. This was made around about this time of year, June, when it was the Queen's 90th birthday. Now, British monarchs in general have two birthdays, their real one, and the Queen's is on the 21st of April, and their official one when it's there's a good chance it's summer and the weather is good for outdoor marching and stuff. So that's on the second Saturday of June. So that was last weekend, but it was very low-key because of COVID and because the Queen recently lost her husband, Prince Philip. But I was reminded of this epic video by Adam Garrett, fellow cooking YouTuber, because I'd stumbled across a live stream of his, and he said that the Queen's birthday cake was one of the first videos of mine that he watched. And, well, good. Not many other people have watched it. It's only had like 3,000 views over the 5 years, so that's pretty rubbish. So let's see if we can improve on this. YouTube doesn't let you just reissue the video, you know, so I just have to encapsulate it in some other stuff. Oh, the other thing is it's a total fail fest. If you're expecting a beautiful finished cake, you're not going to get it. You're not even going to see the finished cake at all, because I was so hacked off by the end that I just didn't photograph it, didn't do a taste test, didn't do anything. We ate it though, and it was spectacular. So there you go. Queen's birthday cake. Enjoy. Greetings gastronauts, this is KeefCooks, I'm Keith, and today I'm going to show you how I made a rather special birthday cake for two people. So the first person this is for has just had her 90th birthday. Sadly won't be getting any of this cake, but it's the thought that counts. Our monarch, Her Majesty Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, of Britain, Ireland and British dominions beyond the seas, Queen and Defender of the Faith, and about a million other things. And the second person this is for is another queen, the Queen of Romantic Lady Novelists, our friend Kate, who's just had her birthday. So I was inspired to make this cake a few weeks ago when I read that last year's Great British Bake Off winner, Nadia Hussain, had been commissioned to make a cake for the Queen's 90th birthday. Which is brilliant, absolutely brilliant news. And I thought, I wonder what she'll make. Anyway, I found out later she made a lemon drizzle cake. Here's a picture. And it's a bit wonky, but you haven't seen mine yet. Because I thought, well, if it was me, I would make a cake in the shape of the Imperial State Crown. And I did, or I tried to. It's very difficult. Don't try this at home unless you're completely insane. So I decided that the best kind of cake would be a fruit cake, not a sponge, because that's probably not dense enough to take the icing. So it'll be rich and fruity, but not solid enough to build houses out of. I'm going to need to make 3 different cakes of different sizes. So I've got 3 tins, a small one, medium-sized one, big one. I won't bother telling you what size these are because I know you're never going to make this. So ingredients, I've got 450 grams each of self-raising flour, butter and caster sugar, powdered sugar. I've also got 100 grams of ground almonds, a teaspoon I think of almond extract, 8 eggs, teaspoon of mace, and 900 grams of dried fruit. Now the dried fruit needs to be macerated in a liquid so it plumps up a bit, and the best liquid would be a load of brandy but I haven't got any, so orange juice is fine, and ideally you should leave that overnight. Okay, let's start making the cake batter. The first thing we need to do is cream together the butter and the sugar, and this is probably the hardest part of making cakes. It's a bit laborious. You want your butter cut into small chunks and soft so that you can just kind of melt it, mix it into the sugar. So for the first few minutes of doing this, you'll probably think this is never going to work, but keep at it. It does work eventually. So the next stage is to add the eggs one at a time, beat them in. And when that's beaten in, you can add the next one, not before. And I'm actually going to stop there. I've got 6 eggs in, and that's looking a bit sloppy. I think that might be enough eggs. So the next job is to fold in the flour and the ground almonds and the almond extract, half a teaspoon. Right, now it's time to put the fruit in. And if you like, you can also add things like candied peel or glacé cherries or whatever you like, really. What you need to do now is preheat your oven to 160 degrees Celsius and butter your tins generously. Some people like to line their tins with greaseproof paper. I'm not one of them because that's just a bit too much work. Now we just fill each tin with batter. There we go. I've left a space in the top of each one. I think these probably will rise a bit because we've got lots of eggs and self-raising flour in there. And these need to go in the oven for at least an hour. Obviously they're different sizes, so they'll take different amounts of time to cook. And we have a bowl full of yummy stuff. I don't know what the protocol nowadays is, what with raw eggs being poisonous, but when I was a kid we used to fight over this. Licking out the bowl was the best thing. Okay, this little one's actually had 55 minutes, and I'll just stick a skewer in the middle, and if it comes out dry, which it does, that is done. Oh yeah, lovely. That's done as well. The big one I think will take another 10 or 15 minutes. Some of the cakes have cooled down a little bit, so they're cool enough to handle. We'll just get them out of the tins, put them on a wire rack to cool down completely. So in case the Imperial State Crown doesn't mean anything to you, it was made for the coronation of George VI in 1937 and closely modelled on one that had been made for the coronation of Queen Victoria about a century previously. And Queen Elizabeth wore it for her coronation, and they bring it out of the shed every year for the state opening of Parliament. So really it's quite an astounding thing. It contains 3 of the world's biggest gems, over 2,800 diamonds, hundreds of pearls, rubies, emeralds, you name it, it's got it. It's bling upon bling upon bling. And what it says to visiting foreign potentates is, listen matey, I've got more wealth on my head than you've got in your entire country, so just behave. Right, here's our mountain of cake, and I have to tell you, there's been a bit of nibbling going on, and it's absolutely delicious. So what I need to do is level off the tops of the individual cakes, stick them together with buttercream icing, sculpt it into the curvy shape of the velvet inside of the crown, and ice it again all over with buttercream, and then stick it in the fridge. So it's going to be exciting. Let's get going. Ingredients for the buttercream icing: I've got 500 grams of icing sugar, confectioner's sugar, 250 grams of butter cut into small chunks, and 4 tablespoons of milk with some saffron infusing in it, and this is to give it nice golden colour and rich and royal flavour. So first thing to do is cream the butter, which just means work it with a fork to get it nice and soft. You need to start with, fairly warm, softened butter. Okay, that's kind of how it should be. And I'm now going to add half of the icing sugar and work that in. Now I'm going to add a bit of the milk, work that in as well, just to loosen the mixture because it's gone pretty stiff. Now we'll put the rest of the sugar in and incorporate that. Whew, hard work this baking. Okay, so that's everything in. We'll set this on one side and start carving the cakes. So I'm just shaving a few sort of lumps off the top of this, but that's more or less flat enough. So I'm going to spread it with a good layer of the buttercream, and this will be the glue for the layers of cake, basically. And the second one, I've just broken it. That's possibly a problem, but we'll see if we can glue it back together. This never happens on the bake-off. Looks a bit of a mess right now, but believe me, when it's finished, it will be fabulous. So now we'll put the top cake on, and this is going to need some serious sculpting to get the kind of rounded, curvy, dimpled shape. Does that look like a crown to you? It will, stop worrying. So now I'll just coat the top and most of the sides, not all the way down to the bottom, with buttercream. There it is, looking pretty sloppy at the moment. So I'm going to slap that in the fridge for an hour for the buttercream to firm up. And during that time I will sort out some fondant icing. Right, now I'm going to cover the top part of the crown with purple fondant icing, and I have to admit at this point I'm in completely uncharted territory. I've never done anything like this before. So first thing you need to do is, with a bit of string, measure what will be the diameter of the fondant icing. So I've got two 500-gram packs of ready to roll fondant icing. I suspect I'm just going to need 1.5. I've got some cling film, plastic film, because you need to keep your icing covered at all times when you're not using it, otherwise it dries out really quickly. And I've also got some massively overpriced gel food colouring, ultraviolet. I've got a fallback plan because I don't think that's going to give me a deep enough shade to colour the whole lot of that. And I've also got some corn flour to sprinkle on the surface and stop it sticking, and the good old rolling pin. So we need to start off kneading the fondant to get it soft. And if it's really too hard to work with, you can microwave it for about 10 seconds to soften it. So I've added some food colouring goop. I'm going to get purple fingers from this. See? And here's a tip I've just made up. It gets a bit sticky, so I reckon keeping a bowl of water handy would be a good idea. So, as I suspected, this teeny tube of colouring gel, which cost £1 by the way, has had almost no impact on the icing. So I'm going to use a little bit of blue colouring powder. These industrial strength things probably cost £1 as well. Much better value. Just dissolve that in a little bit of water, and then we'll add that to the fondant and mix that in. Whoa, that's more like it. Oh, it's like being at primary school, this. Great fun. Lots of mess. Looks like something from another planet. I'm going to stick that in a plastic bag because I think it probably needs to rest, and even if it doesn't, I do. Right, I've rolled out the fondant, and it's just a bit bigger than my bit of string all the way around, and looks a bit streaky, but I'll pretend that's deliberate. So now the next bit, the next challenge is to get it on the cake. Oh no, it's tearing. So I'm going to try rolling it out onto a bit of greaseproof paper. Okay, here's the cake. So let's tip him on. Oh well, okay. That was exciting. So I guess I lost a bit there. Let's see if I can stick it. And I didn't get it centered, so I've got quite a bit of excess down here. This tin is my measure, by the way. But excess is good because we've got the opposite of excess around the other side. I'm sure any fondant cake decorators out there will be laughing their socks off at this, but I don't care. Right, now the professionals have little nylon things for doing this job. I don't. But I don't actually want a perfectly smooth finish. I want it to be a little bit kind of stippled like velvet. So I'm just going to dab it all over with cheesecloth. And now I think that needs to rest for a few hours, so I'll stick it in a plastic bag and pop it in, well, a cool place, not the fridge apparently. Right, so here's the slightly weird looking cake from yesterday. Now I'm going to do a band of black coloured marzipan around the bottom. I've got some black food colouring, but that's not obviously going to be anything like enough. So I'm going to mix red, blue and green colouring powder and try and get that into the marzipan and hope that works. This is a quarter of a teaspoon, so it'll be 1/8 of a teaspoon of each colour. And I'll just add a few drops of water to that. Try and work that into the marzipan. I did intend to get some latex gloves when I went shopping this morning, but I forgot. So it's going to be black fingernails all day long again. So I'm just going to measure the diameter of the cake with a bit of string. And the height, which will be the width of the strip I'm going to roll, is 4 centimetres. That's 1.5 inches. So we want a load of corn flour to stop it sticking. And we just roll away. Okay, you can hardly see this against the black worktop, but That's a strip of marzipan. And it needs to be quite thick. It's got to be thicker than the actual icing on the cake. Now I've got some cold water. I'm just going to moisten the marzipan, which will make it stick, I hope. And then I'll place it onto the cake. It's moments like this when you might wish you had a cake turntable, but I don't. I'm just going to try and wash off the corn flour. So this isn't turning out to be the perfectly accurate representation of the crown that I was hoping for. So we're going for a cartoon crown look instead. And we'll try not to obsess about the little details. Because also I need to get this done in the next few days. And there's a lot to do. So I've got these silver balls. They're actually, you know, cake decorations, sometimes they're teeth breakers. But these are cute. They're like puffed wheat or something. They're really soft when you crunch into them. So I was going along merrily thinking about making this cake sometime this year when about a week ago a meetup was arranged with our friend Kate and her lovely husband in Haworth in West Yorkshire, not very far from here, which is the home of the Brontes, and those two being writers, they're very interested in that. So we were looking forward to it. And it turned out this was maybe not the best day to visit Haworth because they were having a 1940s weekend and people were dressed up and there was lots of World War II memorabilia kicking about and jeeps and things, and a fly passed by a Spitfire, which was amazing. And also in an antique shop, a replica of the Imperial State Crown. Now, in my cake-obsessed state, I thought, flipping heck, somebody's nicked my idea. They've made a cake in the shape of the Imperial State Crown. Anyway, it turned out not to be. It was a copy of the real thing. And it was amazing. It's astounding. I'd only seen rubbish photos from the interwebs. And if I'd actually seen the replica, I would never, ever have attempted to try to make it as a cake because... Now I'm going to start making these bands that crisscross the top of it, and I had wanted them to stand proud of the actual cake, but I don't think that's going to be possible. And what you can't really see clearly on this photo is that the elements are actually oak leaves, or in the shape of oak leaves. So what I'm going to try and do is make little cut out oak leaves of marzipan, and I'm going to cover them in royal icing, and then I've got these white shimmer pearls that have a lovely pearlized finish, although, you know, bite into one of these and you can wave your teeth goodbye. So I'm going to smash these up into tiny little fragments and embed them in the royal icing. So I'm going to just try and see if I can crush them with the rolling pin. I'm going to make the royal icing, so I've got my ingredients. I've got 3 egg whites, half a kilo of icing sugar, confectioner's sugar, and 2 or 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. First thing to do is beat the eggs to make them frothy. Looks frothy to me. Now we add the icing sugar, a tablespoon at a time. I want to add in the lemon juice. Crikey, what a useless bottle. Come on. And stir that in. And then we keep beating this till we get stiff peaks. Okay, I reckon that'll do. So I'll put that in a sealed plastic container until I need it. So next challenge, little oak leaves. This is what I'm doing now. Curved top end, and then a basic kind of leaf outline that tapers inwards towards the stem. So a skewer to wiggle some holes near the edge, and then we'll just cut upwards. And keep all your bits of marzipan under cling film to stop them drying out too much while you're working. And actually, I've just had another brainwave. I'm going to put the sprinkle on the glittery stuff, pearly stuff, before I cut out the leaves, and then I can actually roll it in to the surface properly. And then I'll cut out the leaves again, but I think I'll do them quite a bit smaller this time. Right, now I've got a stack of golden glittery oak leaves. So let's try it with this lot. And I'm going to work from the top down. so that they overlap the right way. There we go. And I'm just going to trim off the bottom edge of this last one and hope that they don't fall off before the icing sets. Right, I've made a couple of things, square things. There's a name for these, but I've forgotten what it is. So there's one to go on the top, and that's a double-sided one, and it's on a stick because that will go down into the cake to support it. And this one, which goes behind the Black Prince's ruby. So these are made out of marzipan and are covered in the smashed up shimmer pearl things. So I'm just going to tidy those up, and then I've got a secret thing. Some silver spray glitter, for God's sake. I can't believe I bought glitter. I hate this stuff. It's a bit meagre, the pump action thing. Might be better to take the lid off and just spoon it on. So here's the cake with its cross of oak leaves on it. And I'm just going to pop in some silver balls. Try and make it look like pearls. Ho ho. Okay, and now I'm just going to spray some glitter on, and I've just got some foil to try and mask off the purple bit underneath, because we don't really want glitter on that. This could take a while, so go and have a cup of tea, come back later. Now then, I'm going to need some jewels. Emeralds, green, sapphires, blue, red rubies, and the big red ruby, and some clear diamonds. So I'm cheating a little bit. I've got some green jello, which is lime flavoured, and I've got some red jello, which is strawberry flavoured. But strangely, you can't get blue or clear, so I'm going to have to make that up. So I need some moulds for my jewels. I'm going to use one of these as the mould for the big Cullinan 2 diamond, and then I'll maybe carve it a little bit after. And I'm going to use this ice cube tray for the smaller gems. I know they are actually too big and the wrong shape, but they have got squidgy silicone bottoms, so it'll be easier to get them out, and I may cut them down to rectangles or squares later. I don't know. So I've got some water coming to the boil. Not too much, just what I think will be enough. And I'm going to add 6 teaspoons of sugar. Get that dissolved. And a few drops of peppermint extract, just to give it a bit of flavour. And I need my jelly to set quite firmly, so I'm using 1.5 sachets of gelatine, which may be too much, maybe not enough, I don't know. And I've got some warm water, and just sprinkle some in, and I'll add that to the water. Let that simmer for a bit until the gelatine is fully dissolved. And I'll just pop a bit of that into this mould and stick it in the freezer for a bit, see how it sets. There it is, Cullinan 2 diamond. And so I'll just tidy it up a bit, try and shape it to look more diamondy. Okay, and I'll just pop that onto some royal icing and let that set. Right, so now I know this is a good setting jelly, I'll just make some more diamonds. And now to make the sapphires, I'm just going to add the teeniest bit of blue food colouring to the jelly, because you know how strong this stuff is. That actually looks about right. I will stick that in the freezer to set. Now I bet you're all dying to know what my plan is to make this orb. And well, so was I till a few days ago, because I was really struggling to think what I could do. But anyway, I have what may be a solution. Tunnock's tea cakes. Now, if you don't know what these are, they're total sugar rush. They're amazing things. They're little domes of chocolate enclosing marshmallow with a sort of little biscuit at the bottom, all covered in chocolate, and they're absolutely wonderful. And I haven't had one for centuries. So I've got a pack of 6. There are 2 left. And what I need to do is carefully cut off the biscuit base. Well, that didn't go according to plan. Oh dear, back to the drawing board. I've got a tomato there, maybe I could coat it in icing. Nobody will eat it anyway. Now I'm going to do the Black Prince's ruby, which is this odd shaped thing here. The reason it's a funny shape like that is it was originally a pendant, and you see that red blob there, that was the hole for the strap or the chain or whatever, which has been plugged with another ruby. This is my ruby, which I actually made from red jelly in the egg tray from the fridge. and it's quite nice, but it's the wrong shape and it's a bit too big, so I'm going to hack it about with a hot knife. Now I'm going to stick it on the thing whose name I still can't remember with a bit of royal icing. Just had a brainwave for the orb, this fella. I can use this and just melt some chocolate into those, so it'll be like a hollow chocolate sphere, and then it's a bit small, so I'll bulk it up with thick icing. So I've got half a bar of cooking chocolate and I'll just break it into bits, and I'm going to use a microwave melting technique for this. So what you do is you put it in for 20 seconds, give it a stir, and give it another 20 seconds, stir it again, and keep repeating that till it's all melted. Okay, chocolate's all melty, so I'll pop a bit into each dimple, quite a lot actually, because I want thick, strong walls, like what you don't get on a Tunnocks tea cake. And we just swirl it round till chocolate's coated the whole indentation. Okay, the chocolate's set, and now I need to try and get it out of the moulds. So I'm going to immerse them in hot water. Oh look, it's melted. Try again, I'll re-refrigerate that and try and get it out using slightly less hot water. But, you know, well, it's kind of worked, but it's not brilliant. So I persevered a bit and I've stuck 2 bits onto a stick, and, you know, that is shocking. I can't put that on a cake, and it's not hollow anymore, it's absolutely solid chocolate. So we'll forget about the orb. I don't know what I'll do instead. Now I want to decorate this lower frieze with jewels, and what I found was I thought I could just pop them on with royal icing and they'd stay where you put them, but because of gravity they slide down. So what I've got is a little, well, it's actually the lid from the glitter spray thing, and I can use this to make an indentation in the icing. Oh, well, this is marzipan actually. I'll just scrape some of that out, and that'll hold it in place until the royal icing sets. Bit of icing on the back of the jewel, stick it in, and that should stay where I put it. Okay, so that was like 5 p.m. on Friday evening, and we were meeting our mates in Haworth at 11 o'clock the next morning, and this cake had to be finished one way or another. I had almost lost the will to live, and then Mrs. KeefCooks came in and says, "Cheer up, love," and suggested that I forget about trying to make the Imperial State Crown and concentrate on making this into a cake worth having. So I did. And it turned out actually quite amazingly well. The cake itself is delicious. The jellies were rubbish, the royal icing wouldn't set, it was a nightmare. But, you know, a learning experience. There you go. I told you it was a disappointing epic, but we can't win them all. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.